Hi guys, this is Greg Ozenkowski with the Rust Video XPression team, and today we're going to take a look at one of the new features coming out in XPression. That's the ability to color our published objects. So I'm inside of XPression Studio here, and I've created a scene, and I have 3 text objects, and each of these text objects are published, which means that on the sequence side of XPression or in the Moz plugins, I can affect changes to these objects. I'm going to select my text1 text object. I'm going to go to my Object Inspector, and I'm going to go to the Template Links tab. And that's going to show me all of the objects in my scene that are published. So everything that I can affect from the sequence side of XPression or from a Moz plugin. Now with my text1 selected, I'm going to change the color from the default, which is our default gray, and I'm going to change that to be yellow. And as I click off that text object, we can see that this text object has now been applied a yellow color. So it is much easier to see as an operator when you have a very full published field list. I'm also going to go to my text number 3, and I'm going to change that to be blue. So each of these published fields is a unique object and can have a unique color applied to it. So if we jump over to the sequence side of XPression now, and I drag in my static scene, we can see that my text1 object is yellow, my text2 object is the default XPression gray, and my text3 is the blue that I have applied to that object. So this is one method of applying these colors to our object, but we also have a more dynamic way of doing that, and that's through visual logic. So I'm going to jump back to the layout side of XPression. I'm going to go to my dynamic scene, and again in this scene I have 2 text objects that are published. So if I go to my Template Links tab, I have 2 objects here, and neither of those have a color applied to them. I'm going to open up my visual logic editor, and I'm going to create some logic that will look to see if there's any characters in that text object, and if there's no characters, if the text object is completely empty, I'm going to apply the color red to that object. So the first thing I've done is I've dragged in 2 text is empty blocks, one for each of my text objects. And what this is going to do is give me a value of 1 if there are no characters in that text object, or it will give me a value of 0 if there are colors in that text object. Characters, excuse me. I've dragged that into an input selector block, which will take the index value of whatever my is empty block is giving me, and it will apply one of these 2 value blocks depending on if I get a 0 or a 1. Now I have grabbed a math value block, and I have dragged that in and given that a value of 0. And I've given that a value of 0 because I wanted to give the first color in our color picker list here, which is the default gray. So when my text is empty, I'm going to be given a value of 0, and my template data color will be the default XPression gray. But if my text is empty and I get a value of 1, I will be using a value of 2 and applying the color red to my text objects. So when my text is empty, it will be red. Once I start typing in characters, that red color will go away and I will get the normal XPression color again. So if we jump back to the sequence side of XPression, and I drag in my dynamic scene, we can see that both of these text objects are currently red because neither of them have any values in them. But once I start typing some text into one of those text objects, we can see that that has applied the default XPression gray. So this is a dynamic way of applying colors to our text objects and giving our operators a little bit of a visual cue on if something is missing on a specific object or if something needs a little bit more information. So I'm going to publish this project to my project server now, and we're going to take a look at how this affects the Moz plugins. So I'm here inside of my XPression HTML5 plugin. I'm going to go to my graphics tab, and I'm going to grab that XPression colored published fields project that I just was working on. I'm going to go to my dynamic field, and we can see that once that scene has been loaded, my content column is showing the red just as it did in the XPression sequencer. But once I start putting in some text, we can see that that has been changed back to its original color of the default XPression gray. Similarly, if we take a look at the ActiveX plugin, we have the same options. I will refresh my project, make sure I have the most up-to-date version. And we can see that both of those fields are again red, right until I start putting some text in there, and then we get rid of that color. So a very good dynamic way to apply colors to our objects and give our operators and our users a little bit of a visual cue on what information might be missing in our scenes, or what fields still need to be touched. Thanks for watching, guys.